Hello, beautiful people. Thank you so much for joining me. Um, my name is Isabel. I am a coach here at Major League Hacking. I use she, her pronouns. A fun fact about me is that I've seen a lot of anime. And if you want to connect with me, if you haven't already, if you haven't joined any one of my previous Global Hack Week sessions, my LinkedIn is right here. Today we will be going over sustainable development goals. If you have any questions about that or anything, even just say hi in the chat. I would absolutely love that. I want to make sure that everyone is engaged, and it kind of helps to not talk to the screen or at the screen. But I'm going to keep going. The sustainable development goals are um, coming from this uh, shared blueprint for peace and prosperity. But basically, it's just the United Nations, so a group of different countries, both developing countries and fully developed, not fully, but like developed countries, are created a plan that by 2030, the world will be vaguely a better place. These 17 goals, if we go to this link, sdgs.un.org/goals, I closed it by accident, my bad. So, these goals talk about different ways that we, as like the entire planet, can work towards so that like the point that I'm getting at, I think, is that all 17 of these goals are related. So, for example, in getting rid of poverty in as close to that as we could possibly get, or in an effort to remove or to reduce hunger, we might want to consider decent work and economic growth. That is actually one of the things that I will be like another one of the goals that I will be going over. So I wanted to do good health and well-being, decent work and economic growth, and then the last one was I think quality education. Um, I wanted to discuss not just the ones that are from a lens of like not just an individual, like we as a community, we as a people, we as a human race need to work together on all of these different goals to uplift everyone. Um, so, in the case of good health and well being, which is what we will be going over today, um, it is ensuring healthy lives and promoting well being for all at all ages. So, if we want to break this down, let's see if I have anything. Nope. So, if we want to break this down, healthy lives, so there's often a distinction between life and quality of life. Um, so, just making sure that everyone is alive is one part of the third goal, but also promoting well being is the other part of the goal, where it's not just you're alive, but you have good quality of life. You have enough food to eat, you are well nourished, you are like getting enough sleep. But this is the part that I want to focus on for this session of like the Sustainable Development Goals track, um, mostly because I want to make a push for like advocating for mental health and like removing the stigma against mental illness. And I just went through like a really horrible weeks. So I want to be like driven to address that while also teaching y'all a thing or two about either product management or like an old project. So, once again, to those who are just joining us, I will be going over creating a health app is the super duper gist of it. But we are creating or um, brainstorming an app with the lens that we are uh, not just thinking of the individual, but a greater community. So, um, I skipped a little. My bad. So this is the infographic that comes from the United Nations website, with an update on from their 2022 data. So as like is predictable, COVID-19 was one of the biggest concerns of like health and well-being. I have stats of that. But the thing that I wanted to address for this one is particularly the prevalence of anxiety and depression that came about because of the pandemic. Um, it might have been because their loved ones got sick, or it might have been because they were stuck in their rooms for years in a row, which was what happened to me. Um, but another thing that was interesting for from this infographic was that tuberculosis and malaria are still a very big problem, such that there was actually an increase in how many people died of tuberculosis since 2005, which is a while, which I'm starting to realize is like the passage of time. But um, so with these concerns, the one that I want to focus on is mental health. I still haven't heard from anyone, but that's cool. So I'll appreciate you. If you want to watch along, that's okay too. Um, do not be afraid to say hi. I would appreciate it. So this is what the I plan on having. Um, we have established our topic. I want to talk about mental health, mental illness. And then for the rest of our session, I hope to brainstorm a product with y'all, define the features, create a backlog. And in creating that backlog, or like defining those features, even, we would be able to create, or like the more detail we go into, the more into code we would go into. So if anyone has like, um, technologies that they would want to incorporate in our project, that would be a good place to do that. And then time permitting, will actually like do the implementation. But I'm like cognizant of the fact that there are 2 hours and I tend to love the sound of my own voice. So I oh that's right. So I wanted to remind y'all to do the check-in. That's what I'm missing. So I haven't sent everyone their check-in link. I'm gonna do something risky and reload this page, but if the stream like gets a little wonky, I sincerely apologize. Let's do this. So that happened. I'm sorry. Thank you for your patience. Um, I'm gonna reshare my screen and then we're gonna work on our brainstorming. I'll put the link to our check-in as well as the Figma that's on the screen, since it's not something you can copy and paste from there. Um, let's do check-in. Is going to come into the chat right now. And then we're also doing the Figma. Started faster than I usually do. So I'm like, is it that people haven't had a chance to trickle in? Or is it the time of day? Because I don't know what time zone it is. Or like what time it is in like the rest of the world right now. Yeah, it's past midnight. Cool. Gotcha. So I will open up this link, which I think is just, yeah, this one. Cool. So I want to leave this up here in case. Let's do this. Oops. No, I wanted presenter mode. Yeah. That way it stays in there. Yeah. There we go. So this is what I hoped to do the link to the Figma is going to be right here. And I'm going to put up the check-in link on the screen for everyone else as well. And in the meantime, oh my God, there is an actual human being. Nice, awesome. For a second, I was really worried because it was like 11 minutes and no one said it. So hi. So I see you. Hi, friend. Hello. I don't want to overload my computer and crash the stream. So I'm going to try and check if everything's all right on the Twitch from my phone. We're going to be A-okay. I see someone else joined. Awesome. Hi. What we want to do is brainstorm. So remember how we were doing good health and well-being. And then we wanted to do mental illness or mental health. And then, so I had mentioned I'm going to check if there's an issue with the stream in case folks are having trouble with it because I'm not seeing people. But in the meantime, if you have any problems, like for example, I, as someone with bipolar disorder, do not do well with emotion regulation, or like I can't tell what my emotions are and therefore how to address them or feel my feelings or that kind of stuff. So one problem that I could put down within these post-its, and of course you can add your own post-it, yeah, there, is this is a hint into like my backup plan in case we don't have a lot of like audience engagement. My backup plan, if we can't brainstorm as like a big group, is to go over an existing project. So what do you call this? Determining, analyzing, addressing, naming emotions, whatever. Naming and tracking your emotions is going to be like one of my suggestions for the problems. And then for the opportunity, I personally think that electronic health records are tedious and or difficult and or not streamlined across the board. And this is a later problem, but being able to have like a centralized, a streamlined, a good user experience for electronic health records would be so great for both hospitals and for patients. So that is an opportunity that I'm going to put down. Improving prevalence, or is it like the more people who use the same app, the easier it is to standardize? That's the word I'm looking for, friends. Standardize electronic health records. It's so small. Yeah, there. So, and then if you make your own post-it, I think, or like the moment you type into a post-it, it says who wrote it. People are uncomfortable with that, let me know, but it says anonymous otherwise. So I gave an example for what kind of problems and opportunities we could pursue. Let's start there. Again, I'm going to take a second to see where everyone is, honestly. But thank you for being on the Figma. I appreciate y'all. Gosh. We have MLH. Major League. Again, if anyone has any questions, or am I not seeing the stream, the chat? Is that what it is? Switch from TurboTax to H&R Block Online and tax season. No, it is just what it is. Okay, so I see you, Chen. I see Shreya. Thank you for joining. Um, Again, to people who are observing or don't know what's going on, I have the Figma link on the left hand side. I also have it in the chat. Um, and I hope to have um, folks contribute to the brainstorming that we're doing. Um, Again, our sustainable development goal is improving good health and having good health and well-being for everyone, regardless of how old they are, regardless of where they are. Was part of the sustainable, like the detail, because it was like for all at all ages. So if you want mental health for kids or mental health for old people, or actually, so most of the folks with mental illness right now are like this the stereotype, the trope, the um overgeneralization is that Gen Z or folks of our generation are more likely to talk about mental health. Um and the boomers say that, oh, it's just because you haven't struggled as much or you complain about everything. But what another perspective of that is they don't talk about, or they aren't in tune with their emotions, or they're not like, the bottle up your feelings kind of thing, is what I'm getting at. So it could be that they also have mental illnesses or they also have mental health problems, but they just don't talk about it. So another problem that could be worth addressing is mental health for old people, or I want to say boomers, and up. And keep going back and forth. And then maybe by like 2:45, if we don't have like enough engagement and it gets boring, I'll just talk through a project. But again, I sincerely hope that I can make this a comfortable enough space that you can like either talk in the chat or type in the Figma. But like this is a safe space. Last time it helped that I like was open about my mental health and my mental illnesses. So I was hoping to foster the same like safe space now with this track. But let's see. Another mental health problem. I don't know, when you feel pressured or overwhelmed. Um, Feeling, or burnout. Honestly, just burnout is the whole problem. And then what else could we have? In relation to burnout, was I had an idea in my head and then I lost it. Um, it looks like I had names earlier and now they're gone. Dang, that's a bummer. And I didn't miss any messages either. Oh well. So, burnout is another problem. Let's see. If I want another opportunity, or so if you are having trouble brainstorming, if you are having trouble finding a problem, finding an opportunity, and I'll add like maybe a description. Yeah, I was gonna say add a description from like the product management terminology that I got used to, but I think problem and opportunity kind of are self-explanatory. But if you need any um, like ways to jumpstart your creativity, if you have a mental block or anything like that, here are some questions that might help you answer this question. What kind of problem are you facing? Who is experiencing the problem? Why is it a problem? What job is the user hiring our product to do for them? So what exactly, I think another way to phrase number 4 is what exactly is the, what, yeah, what exactly is the problem? Goes back. Um, but like specific functionality is where this is going. Um, how is the user currently solving this problem? So I know that a few folks, when they're brainstorming for hackathon projects, for example, they always think, oh, someone's already done that already. Someone's already done that, so it must not be worth pursuing anymore, for example. But I entirely disagree, because when you ask how is the user currently solving this problem, if you look at your competitors, if you look at anyone else that is already in the space and already trying to solve the issue, um, you will find different ways to improve it. You will find different um, different improvements, different like things that you would do differently, for example, to treat it, to make it go towards a different target audience. So for example, it's the same problem, number 1, but number 2, it's a different target market. It's a different like group of people experiencing this problem. One example of that could be, let's say, oh, who's experiencing this problem. A good example for that is this one. Or let's zoom in, friends. But I won't be able to tell if anyone else is in the Figma. So I hope they like show their mouse over this way, if anything. So I right now am inspired by these 3. But like, if you want to take it further, like if you have more in your idea, I totally welcome it. Let's say you want, or maybe let's do here, broad ideas. Yeah. And then I'll just put this here. And then let's say the ones that I'm not taking seriously, I'm going to change into a different color. Or no, because then what if you use that color? But an example of like, if you just have an idea, regardless of whether it's a problem or opportunity, I don't want you to stifle that. But one example is, I don't know, self-care for zombies during the apocalypse. But this was a gag app project thing, hackathon that I did a few years ago. And so if you, I'm just trying to show that we're chill here. Let's see. For the improving standardized electronic health records, as I had mentioned, it is an opportunity because actually I wanna take that further then. Why would it be helpful to improve standardized electronic health records? In this case, we might want to, it'll increase access to data for like analysis, etc. It would improve user experience for both doctors and patients, etc. Because there's also the administration, there's also the nurses, there's also the med techs, all of that stuff. So this is kind of like going into why, but it's also, no, that's ugly. That did not work out. Oh, nope. And then if I do, it follows. Okay, cool. Oops, and you can even put a text on it. That's pretty cool. I went the other way. How do you, gosh. I goofed. Or I'm, no. See? You see how it's going backwards? I'm doing this wrong. Okay. Maybe it's yeah. Okay. That was not a smart move. But so we are improving standardized electronic health records and increasing. So these are the different ways that we can do it. Improving standardized electronic health records. So another way to think about this is the electronic part, right? So standardizing records for countries without access to like tablets, TVs, technology that is expensive. Low tech areas. So if you're in a rural space or if you are up a mountain with no Wi-Fi, how or if you cannot afford or if the community you are trying to support cannot afford like laptops and tablets and stuff, then how can we still standardize these electronic health records? Because, for example, one of the another problem that I personally like noticed was that with mental illness, so ADHD, autism, like the neurodivergent people, um, are we don't have enough research on it because most of the research that had already been done was on uh, was on I lost it. Was on boys, and they were always middle class white boys. So, or just middle class boys who could afford to be fixated on toy trains or who could fidget in the middle of class or that kind of stuff. So, when women presented it differently, it didn't like it did the practitioners, the psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, couldn't see the connection with a hyperactive presentation on a woman or someone who was socialized as a woman versus someone who was socialized as a man or like a boy in this case. So there's not a lot of research on neurodivergent adults or neurodivergent women. So that is another reason why I think it would be really great for these standardized health records. Um, Um, if I wanna standardizing the records for low tech areas, I want to envision it's 2:35. So like if I need time for the rest of it, I've never had a quiet stream. This is bananas. Yeah, it's total bananas. Total bananas. Okay. So, um I am going to pivot and talk about the project as if I started it just now. So that, let's see, we got burnout, mental health for boomers, and then naming and tracking your emotions was a project that I had before. But following this train of thought as if it hasn't already been made. Naming and tracking your emotions is important for people who like um, that is the problem. And then the experiencing of the problem is so we didn't have a target audience, but it was like generally to anyone, someone who does okay, general audience. But then, for example, when you're talking about your project and you're brainstorming and you don't know, okay, anyone could use it. Like you don't see a specific subgroup of people who would specifically, particularly, especially benefit from your product. Um, And then you start seeing, okay, what would make them want to use this? Like, okay, anyone could use it, but particularly folks who don't have a high emotional intelligence and can't tell what they're feeling. Or folks with poor memory. Did you see that? It like lagged and skipped and stuff, my bad. So let's go back. There we go. Yes, my wallpaper still says January. Time has passed. Let's see. So our audience is now particularly folks who don't have, or folks with poor memory. Yep. And then our next question is, why is this a problem? We are going into, it's a problem because if you can't figure out what the first step to solving any problem is admitting that you have a problem in the first place. So if you're mad but you don't know what you're mad about, you can't understand that the thing that you need to address is actually, I don't know, feeling insecure or feeling hurt because your friend or your family member pointed out a thing that was bugging you about yourself. So if you just see the mad, if you just see the red and you just see the person who said a thing to you, you won't know what's actually bothering you. You won't know how to address it, how to form boundaries. I get that this is like, I am internally cringing at the fact that this is a first world problem. And like, when you think of United Nations, when you think of social good, when you think about like sustainable development, you usually think about the ones who are struggling the most. You think about the ones who don't have food to eat, don't have, like, are literally living through a war torn country. Um, but I also think that that might be a source of why it's a little hard for some people to empathize with social good, because they are so far from the problem, that I wanted to relate it to something that everyone, no, that's wrong, that folks could relate to a little more easily, um, in that, like, not everyone might have traumatic childhoods, but everyone's gonna generally care about what other people think. I'm trying to like avoid generalizations. Um, but so let's say I have a I have an audience that either doesn't have a high emotional intelligence, or like me, I have poor memory. I lose my train of thought. You've seen that as this stream has gone along. And yes, so I wanted to make it a little more relatable, a little more close to home, without feeling bad that, yeah, it is a little bit of a first world problem. But just because someone else's problems are worse than yours doesn't mean you don't still have a problem. Um, Similarly, when we're talking about like emotional intelligence, just because someone is sadder, just because someone is, or just because there is worse in the world doesn't mean yours isn't bad. Yeah, that's a good summary. So if we track our emotions, or if we, so being able to understand the root cause of your anxiety, for example, helps you address the underlying, let's say, insecurities, or it's saying it twice. It's like, for example, or trauma, or what else? For trauma, yeah. This helps us set better boundaries. this is again a first world problem, but like it's what I've been focused on for the past like few weeks, months, years. Um, and mental health is health too. So, what job is the user hiring our product to do for them? So, in the case of this, let me move all of my info dumps or like my things down here. Cool. So, oh, I understand. I like the washies. Cool. My bad. So, Sandra, hello again. I appreciate you for being here, for keeping me company because I started to get a little lonely. The link to so if you came from the Discord, uh, like this thing, the link tree, you can find the slides there, uh, and then you can access this link. But the thing that you're this, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Or it, and then I'll put the link tree in like bigger font somewhere. Um, there is a lag in the like chat to stream, like from between the stream and the chat and where I'm at. So my bad, but that's okay. We'll make it work. Um, so I was following along with the brainstorming. So I'm at product requirements. Um, and what is the job? What job is the hire? Oh, what job is the user hiring our product to do for them? I'm there, and that's what number 4 is. That's the original thing that I wrote down. What the problem is some people feel things very strongly without knowing what they're actually feeling. Yeah. Oh, so the Jamboard is the Figma. Did you know that Jamboard is out? Like if you look up Jamboard, there isn't even search and like SEO on the page anymore, and you can't make a new one. I think Google entirely discontinued Jamboards, but this is Fig Jam. Um, very creative branding, and it's like a work in progress. I don't think the latency very was very prioritized. I think it assumed that everyone that would use it has great Wi-Fi or has great like a good setup. Um, so when I tried making an agenda, when I tried out like the stronger functionalities, it like bugs out. Um, so our number 4 is so this is 1. No, I'll just keep it. Yeah, one. Gosh. So if I put here 1, and then I put here 2, and then I put here boing. Okay. And then now we are at 4, right? Yeah. And then the next one, honestly, we don't have to go that far. Yeah, we don't have to go that far. Because I'm starting to think about defining the features, creating the backlog, exploring the implementation. Um, yeah. So if we want to define the features, we already got like what we're trying to do, which is naming and tracking our emotions. The project that I'm actually referring to that a friend and I finished was this. I didn't realize until I was looking for like a backup plan for like for the stream that someone that I worked with is already a coach too. Like neither of us were coaches when we made this 2 years ago. And then last year I became a coach and this year he became a coach. And I think that's pretty cool. Pretty darn cool. So this is I wonder if any of our Trias links still work. but I do have the repo. That is enough. Let's see if my local is still, like, if it's enough to run it. Gosh golly gee, everything is gonna crash. Mark my words. So let me shift that. Yeah, there we go. And we are using, so I think I want to say Wemo. Yes. And then to be on the safe side, there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing new. So I can just run it. Are you NPM or Yarn? But there's no package log. So I might be missing a few things. So I'm gonna run it, and then we'll go over about how I like how my team and I made it. Um, but while I am installing all of the dependencies, I'll talk about what the project even is. So someone was looking through alexithymia, which is I realized after my diagnosis that it's something that I even like have the slide right there that 1 in 10 people have alexithymia, but I didn't like process just how common it must be for 1 in 10 to be true. So basically, people have trouble understanding for what don't have a good understanding of what it is that they're feeling. So we wanted to start with at least being able to help them name what the emotion is. So in this case, we had this as our inspiration. So this color wheel, not color wheel, emotion wheel that looks like a color wheel or is inspired by a color wheel. So if we like zoom in, because I see the NPM is still running. There we go. Yeah. So if you're angry at someone, it isn't just that you're mad at them. Like, why are you mad at them? Are you mad at them because you're jealous that they flirted with someone else? Are you embarrassed that you did something wrong? Are you frustrated at the thing you can't control? Are you being dismissive of the actual feeling that you're feeling under the mad? Or maybe they dismissed you being angry, which made you even angrier. And being able to get to the granular, like, okay, I am feeling confident versus I am feeling safe versus I am feeling creative. They're all happy, but the message that it's trying to give, the lesson that that emotion is trying to tell you is different. Usually it's the negative emotions that have that have a message, but it's also even the positive ones, like being afraid to be happy is something that I've been seeing a lot, or at least like in the people that are around me, where like, oh my god, I'm finally happy, or I'm finally like relaxed and enjoying myself, or I finally get to have a break. But then they are so scared about, or afraid. Okay, so let's say afraid and anxious and worried about what'll happen when the thing that's making them happy is gone or goes away, or um like within the happiness and the joy is a sense of vulnerability. So you want to start addressing, why do you feel vulnerable? Is it the person? Is it the situation? And then you are then better equipped to prioritize your, circling back to our topic for the day, your well-being. Wow, I can't believe I got to circle it back. I didn't think I could do it, but I did it. So we have that. I've talked about emotions and feelings and stuff. And now, what is it complaining about? I could assume that they're all deprecated. It's 2 years old. And then let's say npm start. What do I do? Might be like gone forever. CSS tools, and what was it? Normalize. And there it is. See, it's still. Yeah, it's still here. So let me try installing it separately. Oh, why? Wasn't on the package JSON. I see how it is. It's going to be a little bit nostalgic. I haven't opened this project in a while. Let's check in on our Figma. Do we have any new? Nope, that's okay. A-okay. Let's see. So we have our React app now. This is what it looks like in full screen. And then I'll put the code on the side as well. So I'm going to put down this terminal. Let it just show that there's a, so I know it's still running. And then, so, I mean, folks are comfortable with, have generally been comfortable with React, but I'm not going to put anyone down who isn't comfortable with it, but I won't know what the audience is looking for unless they speak up. What is the word that I'm looking for? I'm like a fortune cookie right now. A closed mouth is never fed. Yes. So what I have here is it was built with React.js, so plain JavaScript, and then I have React Router. This was back in the day. This is telling me, oh, that's just inline. We have our components. So during this time, I separated. So I wanted like a modular design system. So if you guys want me to talk about that as well, I can. But basically, like those look the same, or like they're the same component. Why did you just pop up there? That doesn't. Oh, our Firebase must be down. Yeah. Okay. I hear you. I'm understanding. I'm computing. Which means an alternative that I have, since you can't see what it looks like right now, we can just go over what it looked like before. So homepage shows images. I guess those images were hosted in our Firebase because they didn't show up down there. But this is just me going over what the problem is. I used to have blonde hair. That's pink. It's like original shade was the pink that you see on the screen. Like the where's Isa from MLH? The banner. I like it when it shows. There it is. Yeah, so see that Isa from MLH, the pink one, is. Now we have our login screen, splash, like this is just an unsplash thing. And then these were probably templated, but the form validation is there. And then we're logged in, and now we go into add a new mood, which is where, so this is when the database comes in, where these words were kind of hard coded, but the emotion itself, yeah, see? Again, this was based on that color wheel or emotion wheel that I showed you. And then they can see more clearly, like just within these few words, as well as a description of what that emotion is. Again, this is a prototype, so the GIF didn't match up. It's kind of quite the opposite. But then our prototype had the ability to log an emotion. So moving forward, let's say at that moment in time you were feeling proud, and then moods over time will then show you your emotion history. So over time, we'll see that you were lonely, you were proud, you were busy, and then all of those emotions over time. But I think that was just me explaining that there is no data to show. But I wanted this graph to be able to quantify or at least visualize, for example, spikes in emotion or patterns. I have found that it is super duper helpful to have something to look on, to reflect on what has happened. So time tracking, having like blocks of my tasks. I have a tracker that is super type A, like super duper type A, that tracks literally everything. Mood, energy level, symptoms, like what I ate, my bowel movements, and even like custom trackers, like how well I socialized, how anxious I was, whether I was feeling irritable. And I felt way more equipped, way more prepared for whatever my brain was going to throw at me. And it has helped me improve my well-being, was, I think, a good conclusion to that. So is there anything else here? Oh yeah, and then the last thing I wanted to add for this demo was that the crisis button goes to the suicide prevention hotline, in case, and like so that is the product. We're at 3 p.m. I think I'm supposed to be done at 4 p.m. Cool. We're good. Going into the code, so I separated them into different components. I don't want to keep saying I, because what if Ashton's watching and I keep saying I and like hog all the work? But the components were separated. I don't think there ended up being uniformity. So for example, the ones that I made, I like to JS exit, and then I'm the kind of person that uses either CSS and JS or style sheets. So I'm pretty sure I was the one who probably made this. I say duh. Yeah, no, probably me. And then so what I did was have a list of what is going to be on the nav bar, and just mapping through that list, and creating a component each time. And then that would be the whole nav bar. The reason why this is, for example, an improvement as opposed to what we might be used to with static websites like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, is that this would look like, so I'm just going to say like link, class name, classes.link. Oh, that's just my style. So link, okay. Yeah, I don't even know how I would be able to do this. So I'll just say class name, like, let's say it's that. And then href, that's where it then helped me to have my list as an array of objects, because I could put the name and the link together. So what I did was the href was the 2, and then the child was the name. And had we done this the old-fashioned way, I would have had to do 2, and then home, and then copied and pasted, right? And then changed it to noon, and then changed it to time. And then, but do you see where I'm going with this? can hear me above my typing. Um, add mood, and then moods over time. So this ended up being, how do I? There, that's what I was trying to do, an arrow. So I'm commenting these out, but this is, oh, because it's JavaScript, so it's doing thingies, not the thingies. Oh, not what I want. So maybe this is E. So this few lines, so honestly, this is one line. I just broke them apart because I like things pretty, but this would look like, oh my God. Okay. And then we have, and then we have, and then we have. Like, that is one line that you would have had to copy and paste however many times you had in this list. So if we have any beginners in the group or someone who hasn't learned this part of React yet, I hope you got a takeaway out of my rambling about emotions and stuff. But yeah, so that is one thing that I did. Let's look at, so this was just, I guess this was the thing that held everything else. That's kind of what happens when you work. So this is one of the very few hackathon projects that I completed, like to a degree that I was able to deploy it. I had like I had like a database and everything, front end, back end deployed, like full. We had like poor practices. We had some hard coded things, but this was as complete as I had at the time. So there are, for example, things like this where it's a little bit redundant. But this is okay, emotion display. So I think this is the whole thing. What we did here is the emotion lists are in their own databases. Not database, sorry. I read this. Are in their own objects, but I had said it would be a placeholder for the database in case whoever worked on it, the Firebase didn't finish it. So this is what I had. And then I had just a small function, a helper function to update what would be displayed depending on what was clicked. So here I had the emotion. So if I clicked happy, then that becomes the prop for the next function, pulling up everything that's under happy. Cool. So, and then I slightly struggled with this. I think I remember struggling with a little bit with the back thing. Because if you go backspace within the browser, it like messes up the logic. I guess that's something I would want to address moving forward. And like, I'm a little slightly blown away by how pretty well I documented this. I think if you say not blame, but source section, no, like you're supposed to be able to tell who did it. Format refactor, add to watch, find all implementations, go to references. I remember I had that was Azure, not Azure. That was Visual Studio, not VS Code. I'm gonna take it back. VS Code is lighter, doesn't need as much. So this is something that I added for the little for this thing. Oops. That like where they don't. That was supposed to happen, but they were supposed to happen in succession, like in a fan out. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for, where they fan out. going back to my code, what I have here is, so this function, the emotion list display, just does the conditional rendering. And then this part is just the whole conditional. And I kind of like how I did this, because from here to here is actually technically just one line. In that, so this is a ternary statement. If level 2 active is false, then map this, which is just show up, and then this shows show the next one. And then the colon in the middle shows, okay, if this is what will happen in the first, this is what will happen in the, if true, if false. Yes, exactly. And then, yeah, we're cool there. Someone worked on the Firebase. That's an old one. Yeah, see, so with hackathons, best practices are a little bit difficult to maintain. So I'm so shocked that I was like commenting stuff here. I even have like labels. Bananas. This was a placeholder. We didn't end up using it. Someone from my team worked on the pop-up because it's a separate CSS file, which I don't do anymore. This is a sample Firebase component. But this was in charge of the rendering of the emotions should we have successfully done the database. Here's the actual Firebase. So context is right here. All of our keys, our .env is from here, and then our index is just hosting all of the thing. And now, yeah, so this is now my root folder with just the app.js. I, in the spirit of modularity, wanted to keep the main CSS file by itself, and then any styles within the, like, we're going to be within the component file. So that's why I wanted like pop up, and then emotion list. Like they stay together, and then only the ones that absolutely have to be applied everywhere are going to be in the everywhere file, like global styles, I think the term is. And then this is our, not driver code, because that's index, but app.js is just showing how are you feeling? Navbar, router, switch. Where did... This doesn't feel right. I think it do be. Yeah, there might have been another branch that had those images, because when I ran it, there's no images, and the code doesn't have the images either, which would make sense. But yeah, so that is the code. This project taught me a lot about setting up Firebase. So this was, Firestore, and like all of the input was like the biggest lesson that we had for this one. So we did Firebase authentication. That was the one that you saw in the demo video. We had Firestore, and then it took a lot of documentation to get to this one. But Google does have very good documentation, and like the way that the documentation is arranged is pretty good. Oh, and I remember we were in very different time zones for this one. Yeah, see, 3 different time zones. And then we hosted it as well. Yeah, we had said that. I had said that. Yep. Cool. So that was the project, friends. That was naming and tracking your emotions. I'm gonna pull this back this way. And I am gonna open Q&A. Oh, gross. It should say a ticker. How dare you not be a ticker? Yeah. There. Okay. So questions, concerns, clarifications are now open in the chat. I'm going to keep rambling in the meantime. And then I think I'm done with my little thing. There's my slide. I'm not entirely done, but yeah, I can't follow this anymore because I went through an existing project. But we could, I don't know, open the repo, make a project, talk about how to manage it. Should you have wanted to do this for, nope. But we were a team of 5. Who are these? Who are the rest of those? 81 security problems. Fascinating. That's usually with the dependencies. Working with JavaScript just kind of does that to you. And all of the packages and all of the libraries and all of the frameworks and all of them gotta work together. Sometimes they don't. Awesome. Okay. I've given it a little bit. Let me see if the stream on Twitch has caught up with me. Yeah, looks like it. Awesome. So I'm going to, I guess, wrap up. Thank everyone who stopped by or will stop by. And Linktree, I guess. Any last minute stuff that you might think of. I'm not doing that there. We're not doing that there, friend. Linktree. Nope, I'm not doing Linktree. There we go. Yeah, so this is all of my resources for all of the MLH stuff, which includes the slides that we had today, all of the slides and videos that I've ever had to, yeah. And then if you ever want to connect with me, stalk me, see my projects, feel free to do so. Awesome. Once again, I want to, aw, dude, missed you. Awesome. Okay. So we are through. Thank you again. Goodbye. Bye, friends. Thank you.